Hi everyone, welcome back to Maybe Actually Museums Are For Me. I'm your host, Alex Pavljuk. Stick with me for a moment, but I promise we're going to get around to the purpose of the episode. When I was in high school, that's right, we're going back a little bit, I felt pretty firmly that I was going to be a filmmaker. That's what I'd grown up believing and knowing. It's this thing that I willed so hard into existence. Everything, it seemed, that I did was in service of the camera. You know, what I didn't realize, as I was so eagerly awaiting my chance to move forward in life and be some famous film director or something of the sort, that what I was seeking wasn't film in isolation, but to actually be in the service of story, no matter the form or medium. I had previously waved away my skill and passion for writing because it was just a placeholder until I had the means to make movies. And that belief carried with me for way too long. It was with me until my senior year of high school. But it was that year that I was in many ways pressured by friends and teachers to join the high school newspaper, thus launching my interest in other forms of storytelling beyond the camera and script. In fact, that experience, first working on journalism, was so informative that it provided me the vision to see that the allure of being a film major in college singularly was just too narrow for what I loved, leading me to communication and media and my role at the college newspaper, the Montclarian, over at Montclair State. And it was there that I became a desk editor of fiction and a contributor in nearly every other major section, from entertainment to news to now content strategy, here at MAM, where I have the immense privilege to tell the story not just only of this institution, but of the artists who we celebrate and support, and that's across documentary film, social media content, and, other things like this podcast. If it hasn't become clear, today's episode touches on the topic of journalism. If you're a regular listener of the show, you would know that my impromptu co-host Melissa Casal and I will on occasion discuss headlines within the art world. We do this so much that with things like the breaking news of the Louvre going on strike a few months back, I have to be careful that we don't slip into like reporter mode, but reporter mode is interesting to me. The art world has so many interesting leads and beats, from auction house drama to legally questionable public art to high-profile museum change-ups, anticipated exhibition openings, tragic damages to priceless art, and so on, that I felt it was deeply interesting to chat with somebody who, unlike me, is a working professional within the field of journalism and has covered a range of topics, including our local art scene here in Montclair. With all of that said, I am so thrilled to be joined in conversation today with Georgette Gilmore, the engagement editor for Montclair Local. Hi, Georgette.
Hi, Alex.
Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
This is probably like a weird experience for you because, for the audience who obviously is unaware, you formerly did my job.
I did, but not as good as you.
Nah, come on.
But I did communications and social media for Montclair Art Museum, and it was a great experience.
Yeah. What was I'm just always kind of curious because we've never really talked about this at like length. But like, how different was what you were doing in the role than like how I'm approaching it? Because I feel like it's definitely like had phases over the years.
Yeah, I think when I came in, there wasn't much of a social media presence. So I kind of was the first in a while who kind of started really being very active and engaging, and started posting several times a day, and, really grew the audience. We grew the followers. And what I did was kind of show what the museum collection is, where lots of people don't know. I'm shocked all the time. I've lived in Montclair 23 years, and I know people the same who've never been here. And I'm like, how?
It's still a battle.
So for me personally, I was like, we need to let people know how amazing this museum is and the collections. So I did a lot of that, and we started doing a little more video. I think you do a lot more video, and which I think is fantastic and is what people want to see now. But yeah, it's definitely, I think it's more engaging, more digital in your role than mine. But, I think we did a good job when I was here to really grow the audience a little bit more.
Well, listen, you created the mold for what the role was. But alas, you pivoted into journalism a little bit. And I guess just for an audience who isn't aware of who you are, kind of just tell the people who you are, because they probably know your name from the headlines.
Yeah, well, I've pivoted my entire life. Actually, my college degree was in art. I have a degree from Montclair State University.
Nice.
Yeah, I have a BFA in art, and then I was a teacher. So I worked with kids in out of district, like therapeutic schools, just using art as a way to connect. So I did. So my beginnings were art, but after I had kids, I stayed at home. And I was looking for something to do, but I didn't want to go back in the classroom. And I started blogging. We did like a parenting blog, things around Montclair. At the same time, there was a hyper-local blog that was really popular, Baristanet. And it was Liz George and Debbie Gallant. Long story, I partnered with them. We did parenting content. They did the big news. So I worked with Baristanet for a while. So that's how I kind of got into writing and journalism. I worked with Liz George for probably about 12 years at Baristanet. And that's when, after that, I kind of wanted to do some other things. So I did a few years with a nonprofit. I wanted to get into the nonprofit world. I did communications with Montclair Fund for Educational Excellence, MFEE, which raises money for our local schools. And then after that, I got the job at the Art Museum. I was excited because I love art. I love the Art Museum, and it was similar. It was communications. So that's how I ended up at MAM. And I did that for a few years. Unfortunately, that's when the pandemic hit, So I did that for a while. And then I went on to do a little copywriting. And then Montclair Local was a print paper that was founded in 2017. Baristanet was still going strong. After a while, Montclair Local realized that print was really difficult. They weren't being, it was a lot of money, and it was a nonprofit, and they were having some difficulties. They merged with Liz George at Baristanet. It became one. Liz became the head publisher of Montclair Local. And when I knew she was doing that, I said, I want to come back and work with you. I loved working with her. So I'm kind of like full circle. I'm kind of back there. But I've done many, many different roles. At Montclair Local, I'm the engagement editor. So I do a lot of assisting with the publisher. I do editing and do some development. I get out in the community. And when I do write, it's about the arts or food. Yeah. Two of my favorite things.
Yeah. I mean, you've covered a range of art across theater, concert, public art, exhibitions, openings, so on. Obviously your reporting goes like well beyond just the arts. You just said cooking, food related stuff, but like, how did you find yourself involved in like the arts as like a beat?
Well, I think, the number one thing we do as a news publication is inform, right? We inform our community. And sometimes, and many times, most of that is informing them of what our government is doing, what our schools are doing, public safety in town. But also we're informing them about the things that put us, bring us together as a community. We like to say we inform and we connect. And the arts are something that connects people. So, we're not only telling people, here's what you can do this weekend. We're digging deeper. We're saying like, there's an incredible exhibition and this artist is from Montclair or they're from Essex County. These musicians are playing. We want to tell people what's going on where they live, whether it's serious, hard news or if it's news that brings us joy. So it's really important to us. And then food is the same thing. It's a way to connect. We connect over music, we connect over art, we connect breaking bread. And that's why, we do a lot of food content, restaurant as well.
Yeah. For me, because I'm in this role. I'm doing documentary film. I'm doing the podcast. Obviously, that's what we're doing in this moment, the social media. But, and I talk about this a little bit in the cold open for this episode, but I found journalism in high school. In my senior year of high school, I was kind of voluntold I had to join the high school newspaper. And I realized, oh my God, there's more than just filmmaking. I can tell stories in other mediums, and that led me from going from, I'm going to study film to, now I have to go study communication because there's so much more to this than just the camera. And so, in college, I wrote for the Montclarian. I worked my way up to desk editor for the fiction section, which albeit is not journalism, but I wrote a lot of journalism and contributed to other sections. And, for me, when I wrote pieces for entertainment or feature or very seldomly news, there's a certain style or cadence that naturally came when I found myself drafting those works. And I guess, do you find that reporting on the arts has its own unique voice, or is it all kind of the same?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't do investigative reporting. I'm not writing.
I'm sure you could.
Maybe I could. I don't care to do that. We have
That's how I felt
two
about news.
incredible journalists who work for us who are out there writing about our government and our schools, and that's definitely a different style. Writing about the arts, I can't speak for. I'm not a trained journalist. I'm someone who, knows the business, but loves to share. I like to share what's exciting, and so for me, writing about, an art opening or musicians in town or, food, right? To me, creative, chefs or artists, anything like that. I'm just so excited about it. And I just want to tell people, I'm not a critic, even when I write about food, I'm honest, but I'm not a food critic. I'm here to tell the community, this is out here, check it out. Yeah. And that's my side of the writing. But, we have journalists who do different kind of writing. So it's definitely a different style.
Yeah. Do you think, because I didn't know about your background as studying art, but do you think that gives you a certain edge or even just perspective that others who are reporting on the arts broadly has, or no?
Yeah, I have the context, right? I that art history class killed me, right? So I have an understanding. Yeah. So I feel like I can connect, if I see an exhibition, I can see where it's pulling from. I can kind of understand it a bit. But I think anybody who's just a lover of art can just hopefully just appreciate that someone's sharing something that's really deep and personal to them, and how can we connect over it. And Montclair is an incredible town.
Yes, it really is.
We have creative people in so many different forms. I don't know how you can't get excited about something.
Yeah. I say this a lot, but I grew up in a really small rural town in Ocean County. Farms galore, more cows than people probably. I graduated with 100 kids. My sister graduated with 70 kids from our high school. Tiny. And it feels like, when I came here for college, because I've been in Montclair, if you counting university, I've been here now 5 years. I graduated in 2024, and I've noticed that, especially working here, that I think a lot of people don't, it's not that they don't appreciate how artistic or how vibrant this community is, but I think it's taken for granted sometimes.
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
I think people love to say, I live in Montclair. Mm-hmm. The food's amazing. The arts are amazing. And it's definitely a pull. Yeah. But you could forget when you live here.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And I think the same goes for where I grew up. It was beautiful, but it's isolating. And it's sometimes I probably forget how beautiful it is. And I'm sure the same is here. It's you kind of take the Wellmont for granted. You take the Claridge for granted. You take the art museum for granted. You know, how many people, like you said at the top of this, like have lived in Montclair 15, 20, 25 years and maybe have come to the museum for like one event. Maybe they came when they first moved here. Maybe they've never been at all. You know, it's interesting.
That's shocking
it's
to
shocking.
me. It is. I know. And it happens so much more. And it's the same with the festivals. I love when I have a friend come visit and we go out and we'll drive around and, you know, I had a friend saying, oh my goodness, this place is beautiful. Oh my, you know, you have the film festival. I'm like, oh yeah, Montclair is a great town. But I definitely love Montclair. I'm a big promoter of Montclair. I grew up in Jersey City, so it was a big city, very different. Although now I think it's kind of similar the way it's built up. But this is the only other place I've actually lived in Montclair longer now than I did in Jersey City, and I just love it. I raised my kids here, and they're great people here.
Yeah, I think, you know, and I think it's probably self-evident, but like, why is it important for like a local paper, you know, whose resources, you know, as we kind of talked about, you know, are thin, you know, a lot of the time. You know, obviously it's not a paper, it's digital these days, but
people miss the paper, but it's a new world.
Pro paper, but you know, with those like thin resources, like to dedicate time and effort to report on arts in the community, you know, like Montclair, like other small towns, like why is that so important to like the fabric of the community? Because like we're beyond an age where, you know, I remember it a little bit when I was young and like when I was a kid, but like, you know, we're beyond the age where you're looking in the newspaper for movie times, or you're beyond the time where it's like, oh, well, who's coming to what venue? You have to look in the paper. But things like, you know, the things that you report on, the concerts, the openings, the insert X, Y, and Z, you know, they're really important. I think they define the way that the community engages with the town. And I guess just like, you know, I think we're both biased, but like, why is it so important?
Yeah, I mean, we know at Montclair Local, you know, we average around 100,000 views a month.
That's incredible. Yeah, that's so good. That's huge.
We have a very engaged newsletter subscribed, you know, with an open rate of over 50%, which is pretty unheard of. People read us all the time. We have 9 emails that go out, you know, a daily email that in the morning you get at 6 a.m. that tells you all the latest stories. We have a best of weekend that I put together that we send out on Thursday. Here's everything you should do this weekend for you and your kids. We have a roundup on Sunday. We know that people come to us and learn things. We inform our community. And I think people take for granted that there are other communities just in Essex County alone who don't have anybody covering their school board, their government, their arts, their small businesses, their nonprofits. So, you know, our work is to constantly remind people that we are a nonprofit, and like all the nonprofits in this community, and there's so many who do great work, we need to support the things that we value and that we care about. You know, we're a service. We're here to tell you that, you know, the film festival, you know, needs support or is open now. We're here to tell you that the library, you know, the HVAC system is broken, and as a community, we need to come together and let's draw attention to the government. Yeah. We're here to tell you that we have an incredible collection of art at an art museum in our town. Yeah. So we provide a service, and I know that people value it because we know we have the readership, we have the subscribers, and we do have a really great donation base. We do have donors who support us, but we need more always. Like it's you know, it's just a reminder that you have to support the things that you care about.
Totally. Yeah.
And you know, I think about all the time, what do I care about? What do I personally care about? I care about my paper. I care about my library. I care about my museum. You know, I care about the film. I'm a member of the film festival. For me, it's arts. I also love Tony's Kitchen. I think they do an incredible job for our community.
Absolutely,
so I think Montclair is, and the surrounding area, we're people who care about things, right?
Yeah.
So we have to support it, you know? Absolutely.
Well, Georgette, I appreciate you being on the show. I do have one more big, broad question for you, but I just wanted to thank you.
A big one.
It's something we've talked about on the show before loosely, but, you know, in an era where museums, cultural institutions, news organizations, the arts more broadly, be that theater or concerts too, what have you, they're subject to being scrutinized, or in some dangerous cases watched or regulated, by political entities, say in the case of like the Smithsonian that we saw earlier this year.
That news really was upsetting today. Did you hear about the latest news? How they had to remove any kind of historical, notes about the impeachment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's dangerous.
It is. And so I guess my final, more broad, like I said, question is like, why is it so important for journalists to cover stories like that? Whether it's, an attack on the arts or cultural institutions or museums broadly, why is it so important to be there covering that? Because I think some people might not think, they go, well, there's bigger fish to fry. There's bigger things to worry about. We have democracy at stake. And it's like,
it is democracy. So yes. if we as a country cannot have our freedoms, cannot express ourselves, cannot, share facts, or opinions, right? I mean, if I'm an artist and, I'm going to really, really raunchy, but South Park's episode, right? That is America, right? Like, you can say what you want about it and how, vulgar it is, but that's what makes us American, that we're able to express ourselves and say things, and art and film and just expression, our own expression. That's democracy. Mm-hmm. If, a journalist's job is to show the facts, express, what's happening to the world. People need to be informed, and it may feel like a little thing to people, but it's a very big thing. Our rights are free. That's what's made us different. That's what we were raised on, believing that our freedom to express ourselves and say the things we want to say makes us American and free, and that is at stake. And that, to me, is very scary.
Yeah. Well, Georgette, thank you again for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
I feel like I'd be remiss not to ask, what are like 3 things to do this weekend? What's going on?
Oh,
and this is coming out next Wednesday. We're recording this on Friday. So next weekend.
Oh, next weekend. Well, I don't have my calendar in front of me. Next weekend. Well, I'll just say that we have every weekend, all our local bars and venues have great music. So you can go to Tierney's, which I know you love.
I do.
I love Tierney's, a burger at Tierney's, and a Guinness is my favorite.
A Guinness and I get a turkey club with all the fixins, and then I ask for sauteed onions on it.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. I always go for the burger, but we have, live music, Porta. We have, Wednesday night, I know that there's a Wellmont Outdoor Series concert, and it's a cover band like Billy Joel.
Oh, fun.
So Glass Houses, I want to say. Mm-hmm. There's something to do every weekend. If you go on our website, it's called Best Things to Do This Weekend in Montclair and beyond. You can constantly get a curated list, and you can get it in your inbox if you want. But there's always something to do.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Thanks, Georgette. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Alex.
So that was Maybe Actually Museums Are For Me. Thanks so much to Georgette for jumping on the pod with me and being a part of this episode. I really do appreciate it. Visit the Montclair Local for all of your, news related to Montclair and Essex County. It's really, really great journalism, and it's important stuff. Local papers are really important, It's kind of the whole point of this episode. Anyway, this has been Maybe Actually Museums Are For Me. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end of this episode. The Montclair Art Museum is open Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We have tons of events coming up like Medieval Fest. You heard that right, Medieval Fest. Next week, we're going to be talking to one of the founding members, and we're going to be talking to one of the organizers of the event. So stay tuned for that if you like, knights beating each other up with swords and mead and the whole nine. It's great. It's a lot of fun. Anyway, this has been Maybe Actually Museums Are For Me. Thank you so much to all of our supporters, subscribers, everybody who makes this show happen. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to this podcast. And again, we will talk to you next Wednesday at 10 a.m. Bye.